We discussed about data screening, right? So we have undergone through various assumptions of data screening like normality, test of linearity, multicollinearity, uh, and continuous variable, right? So we stopped at multicollinearity. My screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do I need to discuss multicollinearity again, or what? I don't think so.
A small
No
request,
need.
sir.
Sorry?
A small request.
Yeah,
Uh, can you put this slide on slideshow mode so
I
that it
will. I
would be,
will. I will. I
readable?
will. Yeah, I will. I will. Uh, shall I discuss multicollinearity again, or shall I proceed further?
You can proceed, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So for today's session, we need to discuss about descriptive statistics. We will start our analysis from today onwards. Uh, we will go through descriptive statistics and then parametric test, validity and reliability testing, then parametric test, non-parametric test, and then cluster and discriminant analysis. Okay. So descriptive statistics is basically describing the characteristics of your data set. Okay, so it will help you to understand your data on the basis of a small sample or the population as a whole. So basically, the frequency is the important component of understanding the characteristics of the data, which comes under descriptive statistics. Right, so we calculate various values in terms of frequency to understand the characteristics of the data. So for example, if you have four students are having a score of 80 in mathematics, so then the score of 80 is said to have the frequency of 4, right? So this is how we calculate or understand the characteristics of the data. So this is a small example I have considered to understand how the frequency is being calculated or the characteristics of the data has been described, right? So the problem is we need to analyze the various types of houses on the basis of price, bedrooms, bathrooms, AC units as per the data given, and answer. We need to answer the following 5 questions. Okay, so we have data in our Excel sheet in terms of price, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, AC installed or not, and the style of the house. It may be flat, duplex, or villa. So we need to convert the nominal data into numbers because as we know, SPSS read only numbers, right? So AC have two categories, yes or no. So we have to convert yes into one and no into two. And style, there are three categories: flat as one, row as two, villa as three. So we can directly do it in an Excel also before transforming it into SPSS, or after transforming also we can directly convert this nominal data into ordinal or interval scale in the SPSS also. Okay, so I have provided you the Excel sheet. So I would request everyone to open your SPSS file and upload the data sheet which says frequency. Okay, you need to practice along with me. That's how you will learn. Please open your SPSS file and upload the Excel worksheet named frequency. Hope everyone is following me.
I would join you after 10 minutes because I'm getting in class.
Your voice is cracking.
Sir, I would join you within 10 to 15 minutes because I was driving and coming back to my office.
No problem, sir. Please join as soon as possible. Yeah. So you need to code the categorical data, nominal data into ordinal or interval data. Categorical data you have to code in the Excel sheet itself, or you can directly convert it in the SPSS data sheet also, right? You can do both the things. So upload the data sheet. Are you going to upload it? Locate the Excel sheet where you have saved it. Click open, search for frequency worksheet and click OK. Okay. This is your data has been uploaded in the SPSS. It has been converted into ordinal or interval scale, right? Now go to analyze. So you have 5 questions that has been asked. The 5 questions that has been asked in the example, you have to answer those 5 questions. So frequency is the appropriate test to analyze or answer these questions. So what is the percentage of houses that has 2 bedrooms? How many houses in this sample have at most 3 rooms? What is the number of bathrooms maximum houses have? How many houses have a central air conditioning unit? Based on the sample, most of the houses have which style? So we have to answer these 5 questions, right? So frequency is the best method to answer these questions. Go to analyze, descriptive statistics and frequencies. Select all the 5 variables: price, bedroom, bathroom, AC, style. Shift to variable column. You can check mean and standard deviation if required. There is no use actually. Ensure display frequency tables is checked and just click on OK. The results you will get in the output window. Okay. So the first table what you got is the valid samples. So 10 were the valid samples. You can also see the mean and standard deviation values. Okay, that is not required at this point in time because we don't have any question regarding the mean or standard deviation. The answers of the questions we can get from the frequency table. So there were 5 variables and we have got the 5 frequency tables as you can see in the output window. So this is the output what you have received, and you can answer the questions out of this frequency tables, right? So this is what the output what you have received as mentioned in the slide. I have mentioned in the slide, right? So let's discuss the output. Right. So what was the first question? What was the first question? Satbir ji, can you tell me what was the first question? What percentage of the houses has 2 bedrooms? What percentage of the houses has 2 bedrooms? Right. So in the bedroom frequency table, you can see that 2 bedroom houses has 6 frequency. That is 60% of the houses have 2 bedrooms, right? So this is how you can answer the questions. The second question is, how many houses in this sample have at most 3 rooms. It means minimum 3 rooms must be having. Okay, so in the same bedroom frequency table you can see 2. So 6 rooms have 2, and two houses have 3 bedrooms, and 6 houses have 2 bedrooms. So at most 3 rooms. So 80% of houses at most 3 bedrooms. Here you can see 80%. Okay. Third question is,
What is the total number of bathrooms maximum houses have?
total number.
Number of bathrooms.
What is the number of bathrooms maximum houses have?
Sir.
So maximum houses have how many number of bathrooms? So in the bathroom frequency table, you can see 5 houses have 2 bathrooms, right? So 2 bathrooms are in the maximum number of houses. Fourth question is, how many?
Well, 90% of the rooms is, you mean to say 90% of the rooms have maximum bathrooms, at least 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fourth question is, how many houses have central air conditioning unit?
Right, sir.
So 60% of the houses have ACs. 1 was yes, 2 was no AC. So 6 frequency houses have ACs. That means 60% of the houses have ACs. Okay. And the last question is,
But the question, sir, was central air conditioning unit.
yes, central or air conditioning, whatever you
Okay.
say. Based on the sample, most of the houses have which style? So 3 styles was there: flat, row, and villa. So most of the houses are of which style? So in the style frequency table, 4 are flat, 3 are row, and 3 are villa. So most of the houses are flat actually, right? So this is how you can answer the questions on the basis of the frequencies. Okay, this is how we check the frequency or the percentage.
So
in
in
the
this
sample.
case, 1 is flat, sir.
1 is flat, 2 is row, 3
So
is
it is
villa.
the maximum houses, huh?
Yeah.
50%. Okay, sir.
So many other questions you can answer out of this frequencies table. Okay, on the basis of the price, bedroom, bathrooms, style, or AC. Okay, so this is how we calculate the frequency. Any doubt till now? Anyone? This is the simplest analysis we have done in SPSS now.
सर ये आज मेरा डेटा फाइल ओपन नहीं हुआ सर. I could not upload the file in
Why?
SPSS. I don't know. Yesterday it was working fine.
Your SPSS, you can open the SPSS?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh,
How are you uploading?
new file में I opened new one. I went to data and then
No. Can you see this folder tab?
just a minute, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Click that folder tab like this, and then
Right.
locate.
Yes,
Then
I'm selecting the Excel file
yeah.
and then clicking on the SPSS data file of yours and then open it. Then it is not proceeding ahead. I don't know why. I think
So after
your
clicking on open, nothing comes.
आज नहीं आ रहा. Yesterday it was uploading fine. Today it is not.
Okay.
Anyway, sir, I think after the class is over, we can discuss separately.
Yeah, might be you need to restart your laptop once.
Okay, sir.
Maybe.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah. Okay. Chaliye. So let's proceed further. Then the second important thing is mean and standard deviation. The second important descriptive statistics is mean and standard deviation. I think everybody knows about what is mean and what is standard deviation, so I need not to explain what is it, but I will help you to check, analyze it, how it is being processed in the SPSS, right? The same you can do it in Excel also. It's very easy in the Excel sheet also, right? So the problem is find the mean standard deviation of the following data. So you have a data sheet along with you. Go to the SPSS file, select the mean and standard deviation. You can see two files, mean and standard deviation, one file, one Excel worksheet, and another is mean standard deviation SPSS, right? So mean and standard deviation, the only worksheet that is meant for calculating in the Excel sheet itself. I require to explain you how to analyze or how to calculate mean standard deviation in Excel sheet? Anyone? Do you require me to show how mean and standard deviation is calculated in Excel sheet?
एक बार
Yes,
दिखा
sir.
दीजिए सर,
Yes, sir, please.
Okay.
it will help.
So open the Excel sheet. Remember, if your Excel sheet is open, it will not be uploaded in SPSS, right? It must be closed. Okay. So you can see this Excel worksheet of mean standard deviation. There are 5 variables: x1, x2, x3, x4, and x5, right? You can see this x and xd. This is x is mean and SD is standard deviation, right? I will help you to calculate it again. I'll delete this. I will also delete this. Right. So this is our our data what we have collected for 5 variables: x1, x2, x3, x4, and x5. Right. So you have to click in the first cell. You have to check the first cell. You have to put your cursor in the first cell. Go to auto sum. Drop down the auto sum. Right. Click on more functions. Okay. Click on average. Select average and click OK. Right. Then you have to click this particular button and the number 1, and then you have to select all the variables like this, right? Then again open this tab. You can see F2 to J2. F2, we have selected this cell, F2 to J2, right? From X1 to X7 we have selected already. Click on OK. 9.4 is the mean value for this particular respondent for all the variables, right? Now you have to check this cell. You can see a square tab here. Put your cursor and through the left pointer of mouse, press the left pointer of the mouse and drag it down like this.
Bring it up. Yes, till the end.
All the mean will be calculated automatically.
Yes, correct.
Right. And for standard deviation, put your cursor in this particular cell. Go to auto sum. Check for more function. You can see STDDEV. STDEV. This is standard deviation function. Okay.
DV.
Click on OK.
Okay.
Then select this and click OK. This is what standard deviation is. And drag down it.
Right.
The standard deviation has been collected. Right. You can increase or decrease the decimal from here. Right. So this is the standard deviation you have calculated. For individual variables also you can check the mean and standard deviation. What is the mean value for x1 only? What is the mean value for x2 only in the whole sample? So you have to click at the last of the column x1, then go to AutoSum, average, okay, then select this whole column, right, and click on OK. So you will get the mean value 11.4 for this particular variable x1. Then drag it. So you will be able to calculate the mean values for all the variables individually. And this is the overall mean value for all the sample and all the variables, 12.63. Right. So if it has been asked what is the mean value for x3, you will say 11.3. What is the mean value for x5? You will say 12.5. Okay. So this is how the mean and standard deviation has been calculated in the Excel sheet. Am I clear?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
This same calculation can be done in SPSS also, wherein you can also get other important statistic also, like minimum and maximum values and range and skewness and kurtosis. This you can also calculate this in in Excel also, but you need extensions for that, right? Mean and standard deviation are already by default it is available, but for other statistics you need extensions. So you can do the same thing in Excel sheet in SPSS also. So upload the Excel worksheet of mean and standard deviation SPSS. Okay. Click on OK. The same data has been occurred here. It has been uploaded, right? So in the gender and occupation has also been transformed into numbers now. From the categorical data to the continuous data, it has been transformed now. It is not required right now because we are just checking the mean and standard deviation for these 5 variables. Okay. So after uploading, go to analyze descriptive statistics and descriptives. Transform all the variable to the variable box. Click on options. You can check mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, range, variance if you require, kurtosis and skewness. Right, click continue and then OK. You will get the descriptive statistics in the output window. Right, so the mean value for x1 is 11.4, x2, x3, x4, x5. This is the mean value. This is the minimum value and maximum value. This is the final sample for each variable. 20 was the final sample. Minimum and maximum values. Mean value and the standard deviation. We have calculated the same thing there also, right? Skewness and kurtosis, we have calculated the statistics value, the skewness and kurtosis, right? So you can check it. This is how we calculate the mean and standard deviation, skewness and kurtosis, and descriptive statistics.
Sir, I couldn't upload the file, sir, now. Sir, can you please explain once more, sir, kahan se gaye for getting
You are
this?
able to upload the file?
Yeah, I was able. I have uploaded.
So once your file is uploaded, go to analyze.
Yes, sir.
Go to descriptive statistics.
Analyze descriptive statistics, frequency,
descriptives.
Sir. Right, sir.
Right, select all the 5 variables. Select all the 5 variables like this and click.
Just a minute, I'll see you. Sorry, sir. Please explain once more, sir. Sorry,
Go
sir.
to analyze descriptive statistics, descriptive. Are you able to see this window?
In my case, in case of descriptive, analyze descriptive statistics. Okay, descriptive, right, sir.
Sheet is the
Right,
missing data, frequency, MSD. Which one is this?
MSD SPSS.
MSD SPSS. Okay.
Yes, sir. I am now seeing, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
So transform all these variables to variable box.
Okay, sir.
Click on options.
Okay.
Check mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, kurtosis, skewness.
Okay.
Click continue.
Okay. Sir, serial number, gender, and OCC, you have not selected, sir?
No, these are categorical data. No? We do not want mean. Yeah, you cannot get mean of category.
Okay.
Categorical data. right? So click on OK.
So,
So you will get this output.
okay. Options. Kurtosis.
Okay.
Yes. कुछ आया तो है skewness, standard deviation, mean,
Yeah.
minimum, maximum, descriptive statistics has come.
Yeah. So this
But
is the
standard
output.
error in my case it is 0.512.
Sorry.
In my case in result table the standard error is 0.512. Whereas in your case it is different.
No, same. No. With for skewness and kurtosis, you are required to check statistic value. Okay, not the standard error.
In your sheet, sir, it is 0.992.
But you are seeing for kurtosis, for skewness it's 0.512.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Sir,
I think I have selected all parameters. Right, sir. Now, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, someone was saying something. Please mute your audio. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, someone was saying something.
सर एक बार प्रोसेस को रिपीट
फिर से again. Okay, go to
Sir,
analyze.
Dekar sir is there. He has come join late.
Okay, go to analyze.
analyze
Go to descriptive statistics.
descriptive statistics
Then descriptive. Okay. Transform all the variables into the variable box like this.
okay
Open the options tab.
options
Check on mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, skewness, kurtosis. Continue.
sir
And click on OK. Right?
okay
Have you got the results?
sir
Sir, now I selected kurtosis also, so now I'm getting the same table, same result table, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, you're not audible.
Sir, इस केस में एनालिसिस दोबारा बता देना सर. If can you please repeat once again the meaning of this result?
See, the result is only for mean and standard deviation. The result is only the mean and the standard deviation. Okay. This is the valid samples for each variable 20. This is the minimum value. Minimum was 8 and maximum was 15 for x1. So this is the minimum and maximum value for each variable. This is the mean values for each variable. This is the standard deviation for each variable. It means the values are deviating to the extent of 2.39 from the mean. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Which is too high.
Right, sir.
It's okay. Skewness and kurtosis. These are the skewness. These are the kurtosis value. That's it. So yesterday we discussed about skewness and kurtosis, which helps you to understand the normality of the data.
Okay, sir. So it is basically for each and every variable. These are the kurtosis, skewness, standard error, mean. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Chaliye. we have understood the frequency and mean and standard deviation today as descriptive statistics. Let's start for the session of day 3. Today we were about to start about the reliability and validity of the data. So we have the data with us. We have undergone the data screening in the first go. We have screened our data. We have passed some of the assumptions of data screening while we were facing some of the problems. We tried to sort out those problems like outliers or normality or multicollinearity. Okay. Now we further have to go for multivariate analysis. Before that, we will also check for reliability and validity for the instruments, right? So it depends on about your study. So if it has independent and dependent variables, you have to check for validity and reliability of the instruments also. So if you have created an instrument to collect the data for independent and dependent variables, you have certain items for the variables, so you have to check for validity and reliability also to further check the multivariate statistics like regressions and correlations. Okay, so this reliability and validity will also help you to meet some of the assumptions. It will purify your data to a larger extent. It will help you to get the accurate instrument or accurate data for the model what you have prepared or for the hypothesis what you have postulated. Okay, it will help you to reduce the unwanted data from your instruments, unwanted variables from the instruments. That so reliability will help you to check the how to what extent your data is consistent to measure, and validity will help you to reduce the items which are unwanted, which are not desirable to meet your objectives. So validity is basically checked through factor analysis. Reliability is basically checked through Crowbank's coefficient alpha. Validity is done through factor analysis, which is also known as data reduction technique. It reduces the unwanted data, unwanted items, unwanted variables from your instrument. Right? So let's discuss it in more detail. It will help you to streamline your data. It will help you to purify more data, help you to get the data screened again, so that you get pass all the assumptions again. Okay. So once you have checked for reliability and validity, that is the final data screening, and then you can report the results of data screening after the validity and reliability. You again have to check all the assumptions after performing this validity and reliability testing, right? And the results what you are getting will be the final results then. So if you have met all the assumptions, then your data is very much good enough for multivariate analysis then, right? So what is validity and reliability? Are you able to view the slides?
Yes, sir.
So if you have created any new measurement method, right? I think any new measurement method, if you have created, you have to check for two criterias, whether your measurement instrument or method is good or bad. That is known as psychological assessment. Those psychological assessments are reliability and validity actually. So reliability measures whether your results are consistent, and validity measures whether your results satisfy the objectives or not. Okay. So if your instrument or your data is valid enough, it means it says that the data what you have collected will fulfill your objectives of this study. It means it is good enough to prove your hypothesis. As far as reliability is concerned, it says that your instrument is good enough to provide you the accurate data consistently, always. It means you can rely on your instrument for data collection. Okay, that is what reliability is. And validity is what you are measuring is as per the objectives of the study. So suppose you are checking the emotional intelligence of an individual, but you have asked question for intelligence only, IQ, right? So your instrument of measuring the emotional intelligence is not valid enough. it will not be able to fulfill the objectives of this study. That is, it will not measure the emotional intelligence. It will measure the intelligence quotient of the individual. It will not measure the emotional intelligence, right? So this is how what validity is, and you need to check whether your instrument is measuring what it tends to. That is known as validity, right? And consistently the instrument will give you the data. Whenever you will collect the data, it will give you the same data consistently. It means it is reliable enough. You can rely on your instrument, right? This is what reliability and validity is. Let's check in detail what it is. So reliability is a measurement method which is in the extent to which it produces the same results when applied to the same person under different conditions, right? So suppose you have identified a self-esteem scale, a self-esteem measurement instrument. It means you're checking the self-esteem of an individual. So you have identified certain questions which will help you to understand or identify the self-esteem level of an individual. So while for checking the reliability of your measurement instrument, whether it is providing you the same data with the same person under different conditions. So for example, you have distributed the questionnaire and collected the data on Monday, and you have distributed the same questionnaire to the same person on Wednesday or Friday, right? So the conditions are changing. On Monday, that person might be in a different mood, and on Wednesday or Friday, that person might be in a different mood, right? So even though your instrument is providing the same data to you or not, is what reliability is. It means, can you rely on your instrument, that your instrument will provide you the consistent responses, right? Consistent data to you. This is what reliability is. So will check the reliability of our instrument basically. So it is defined as an extent to which an instrument is consistently measuring what it is supposed to, always, every time. So for example, a child's thermometer would be very reliable as a measurement tool to measure the temperature, right? So if you measure the temperature of a child on Monday, it will give the same reliable, consistent data, and on Friday or on Wednesday, it will also provide the same measurement, right? So this is what a thermometer is, a reliable instrument to measure the temperature. But what happens if we talk about the personality test? So personality test also has to undergo the reliability checking, whether the personality test is exactly measuring the personality of an individual consistently or not. An individual will have the personality on Monday, will have the same personality on Wednesday and Friday also. So whether that instrument is measuring the same personality on all the 3 days or not. But because this is a behavioral type of thing, behavioral questionnaire, so reliability will be little bit less as compared to the thermometer, right? But again, you have to check the reliability. If your reliability is very poor, it means your personality test measurement instrument, the questionnaire, is not good enough to give you the accurate results. So we have to check the reliability of the instrument, right? So for example, a group of 20 people complete the self-esteem scale on Monday and then complete it again on following Friday. So there must be a high correlation between these two sets of a score. That is, one score collected on Monday and the second score collected on Friday. There should be high correlation. It means there should be a positive, significant high correlation between these two scores. If you get negative correlation or low correlation between these two scores, it means there is a problem of reliability. You cannot rely on your instrument. It will give you different varied results, right? Only you're changing the day, but the person you're not changing, the instrument you're not changing. Only you're changing the day, but on different days, there is a less or negative correlation. It means you cannot rely on your instrument. If there is a positive high correlation, then only you have passed the reliability test, right? So reliability is basically consistent with itself. It is known as consistency within itself, right? So there are two important aspects of reliability. The first is the extent to which a measurement method produces the same score for same cases under the same conditions. So if the conditions is also same, the person is same, the instrument is same, right? So whether the instrument is producing the same score or not. This is known as test-retest reliability, right? So I will give you a questionnaire of self-esteem. You will give me the response. Again, after 2 minutes, I will again give you the same questionnaire. Again, I will collect the responses from you, right? So whether these two scores collected from the same person at the same time in the same situation, whether these two scores are matching or not. If it is matching, it has passed the reliability. After 2 minutes only, if the responses or the scores are differing from each other, it means your instrument is not reliable enough to measure, right? So this is known as test-retest reliability. The second is the extent to which responses to the individual item in a multiple item measures are consistent with each other or not, right? So suppose you have multiple variables, and in that multiple variables you have multiple items, right? So whether all the items are measuring the same variable or not, are representing the same variable or not. So this is what we call it as a internal consistency of the instrument. Within the instrument, do we have an internal consistency or not? It means the items what we have identified for measuring a particular variable, all those items are measuring that variable or not, right? So suppose you wanted to check the satisfaction level of employees in the organization, and you have identified 4 variables, right? So one might be motivation level, one might be salary and benefits, and the third might be the organizational environment, and fourth might be the relationship with the colleagues and seniors and juniors. Okay. So for satisfaction with the salary level, salary and benefits, you have identified 3 or 4 items. So all these 3 and 4 items are actually measuring the satisfaction level with the salary or benefits or not. This is what internal consistency within the variable, right? So you have identified 2 or 3 variables, 2 or 3 items for the motivation variable. So all the 3 or 4 items for motivation variable are measuring the motivation out of the employees or not, or that items are talking about something else. So this is what internal consistency is. So internal consistency is basically checked with the help of factor analysis, right? So that comes under validity. But we need to understand whether the responses what we are getting in the items are consistent or not with the same person, right? So in the reliability also we go for 2 types of reliability: test, retest, and internal consistency. Okay. And this internal consistency, as far as reliability is concerned, is checked with Combank's coefficient alpha, right? So let's talk in more detail. So there are 4 types of reliability.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, is there any link between test, retest, and internal consistency, or they are independent? Because if there is same kind of results through test, retest, then internal consistency will be automatically ensured.
No. Let me explain this slide, then you will better understand, right? So there are 4 types of reliability testing. One is inter-rater, which talks about testing the reliability of the instrument with different people on the same test. Okay, this is what inter-rater means. There are different raters, different individuals, and we are checking the same questions, same instrument on different people. So all the people have understood the same thing what is being mentioned in the questionnaire or not. Are every individual understanding the same thing or not? This is what inter-rater reliability is. Okay. So suppose I have given the questionnaire to Satbir ji, I have given questionnaire to Shivangi, and I have given question to Tanu. So are all the 3 respondents are understanding the same thing what I mean to say in the questionnaire, or they are understanding it differently, right? So if there is understanding is different, it means there's a problem in my questionnaire. My questionnaire is very complex, is very difficult to understand. So I have to make it more simpler. so that everybody understands the same thing. This is what inter-rater reliability testing is. Okay, so you can check it by distributing your sample, your instrument to few of the samples among different people. Okay, the second one is test retest. Same people, different time. I will give questionnaire to Shivangi morning, in the evening, and next day morning. So whether she is replying to the same questionnaire with same responses or not, this is known as test retest. Okay, or she is understanding the same questions differently in different times. So if she is understanding differently, then there is a problem of reliability. Okay. The third one is parallel forms. Different people, same time, different test. So I have identified 2-3 measurement instrument for a single variable. Suppose for self-esteem, I have identified 2-3 instruments on the basis of different authors. Okay, so whether I am getting the same results of self-esteem of that particular individual with a different questionnaire or not, right? So this is known as parallel forms. I will distribute different types of forms to different people at the same time, and whether I am getting the mean of the whole population in a similar manner or not. This is what parallel forms is. This is generally used, not used frequently, this particular reliability testing. The most important reliability testing is internal consistency, basically. Different questions, same construct, right? It means you have a same construct, but you are having different set of questions in it. So for example, if you're checking the satisfaction level of employees for 4 variables, right? Satisfaction for salary and benefit, satisfaction level for organization environment. So you have different set of items, different set of questions, and those different set of items, different set of questions for each variable are representing that variable or not. This is what internal consistency is, right? So internal consistency is basically checked with the help of Crowbank's coefficient alpha. For each variable, we get the alpha values, and there is a threshold value. We will discuss it later. And if it passes the threshold values, then we have an internal consistency within the instrument of that variable. Okay. So we generally go for internal consistency and retest reliability testing generally. We do not go generally for inter-rater and parallel forms. Yes, Adbirji, you were asking something.
No, my question was whether if the inter-rater test, test retest, if it is also testing the reliability, and that reliability of data is if it is reliable, then it is meeting the internal consistency also.
No.
So
in test retest, we are checking the consistency of the responses, whether the same individual is giving similar response every time or not, right? So it will explain you the difficulty level of your questions you have asked. It is very difficult to understand your question, right? So at one point in time, the respondent have understood in a different way, and in the another point in time, that same respondent have understood your question in a different manner.
Right, sir.
So it means you have to make your questionnaire as simpler as the respondent should understand it in a similar way every time. Okay, that is the test retest reliability testing. But in internal consistency, we are checking the consistency of an individual items for that particular variable. So this is known as internal consistency. Are the items what you have selected for a particular variable are consistent enough to give the same responses for that particular variable or not?
Okay, it is internal consistency. Suppose if there are 5 questions in a questionnaire, all those 5 questions should reflect the same kind of theme. You mean to say that?
Yeah. So, for example, I was talking about satisfaction level with the salary and benefits. right? So I have asked that whether you as a respondent, whether you are satisfied with the salary what you get in your organization or not. Okay, so you will give your answer. Are you in the same variable? I will ask whether you are satisfied with the housing facility provided to you in your organization or not. So what you will answer? Do you consider housing facility in the variable under the variable salary and benefits? Right? So it depends on the respondent. What is the understanding? Again, I will ask, are you satisfied with the incentives what you receive? So is incentive is a part of salary and benefit? So it depends how you consider it, right? So whether the question item that is incentive is explaining the salary and benefit variable or not, whether the housing facility is explaining the variable salary and benefit or not. This can be checked through internal consistency, right? So
Okay, sir.
we came to know, yes, all the three items are the part of salary and benefit, and this instrument of three items are consistent enough. So internal consistency has been met. The fourth question I have included that are you satisfied with the PF being deducted from your salary? Right. It is again a part of salary slip, but it does not come under salary and benefits. Salary and benefits have its own components, right? Are you satisfied enough with the retirals that you will get after the retirement from the organization? So I have included this item, this question under the salary and benefit variables, but this is not a part of that particular salary and benefit variable actually, right? So you will understand that yes, this is not the part. So you will not try to answer or you will give the wrong answer. Okay. So the software will identify that this particular item is not representing what you wanted to measure, that is salary and benefit. Provident fund is not the part of salary and benefit, then why you have included in it? And then it will show you and you have to discard it. How? Because you have understood it correctly as a respondent that PF is not a part of a salary and benefit variable. Are you getting me? Right?
So, sir,
So,
suppose
yeah.
if we include such type of irrelevant questions, if I call irrelevant as per consistency principle, so while analyzing the data, suppose if we have got the data for those two question elements also, so in the software, those two elements will get discarded, sir, based on
Yes,
our analysis.
yes, it will ask you to discard,
Okay.
right? So your results will be more refined then, and your data screening, your assumptions will be met then. Okay, you will get good results of linearity, normality, and multicollinearity also. That's why it has been recommended that again, if you are taking any predefined instrument by some previous literature and previous sources, you have to check for reliability and validity testing because the organizational settings and the time has been changed. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So if I'm checking the self-esteem, say, so I'm working on my paper on self-esteem, right? So I have adopted Rosenberg self-esteem scale from the previous literature. In 1960, Rosenberg has identified and invented a scale of to measure a self-esteem, and it has been become famous under the name Rosenberg self-esteem scale. So I have adopted this scale, right? So it's not like this scale has already been reliable and valid, so I will use it directly. No, the organization setting has been changed, the time is changed. I have to again check once for validity and reliability, right, to get the desired results. So it is always been recommended if you're adapting some previous scale, go for reliability and validity testing once. If you are inventing your own scale, it requires a rigorous validity and reliability testing. Again and again, you have to conduct it. Rosenberg would not have been created his self-esteem scale only by checking once reliability and validity, right? You have to check it many times. That is known as pilot testing. right? Or pre-testing, we call it as. So all the reliabilities and all the validities we have to consider. But if you are adapting some instrument, I would only say that just check for internal consistency only. But if you are inventing this, you have to check all the 4 reliabilities. And there are 6 type of validities. You have to conduct all the validity testing also. Okay. Any doubt till now? Anyone? Surely.
Sir, in case of internal consistency also, we may like to have some views from experts
Right? Like?
while framing the questionnaire.
Hmm.
In case of internal consistency, just to have the correct results. So, is it advisable to consult some experts or some experienced persons for
Yeah.
for ensuring the consistency of the questionnaire?
What you're talking about will come under validity, right? So if your questionnaire is valid enough, it will come reliable also, right?
Achha.
So the point what you're talking about will come under validity, that we call it as a construct validity and face validity, right?
And
So
reliability
while
is,
you,
so reliability is a subsequent activity. Suppose if the questionnaire is perfect enough and we have got the data, that means the
it is possible to get high scores on reliability then,
Achha ji.
right?
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
sir.
so I have explained this test reliability through some explanations. What I have explained is written here, so I need not to read this again. This is just for your reference when I will share the slides, right? Internal consistency theory is also mentioned here. You can go through it when I will share the slides. The important part is Crowbank's coefficient alpha, right? So let's check the reliability through Crowbank's coefficient alpha and what values we get through checking the reliability of the instrument. Okay, so I will ask everyone to open your SPSS file and upload the sheet named factor. Upload the sheet named factor. Okay, upload the sheet name factor. So your data is uploaded. You have various instruments. You have various items under different variables, pp1, pp12, pp13, and pp14. This is first variable pp1, which has 4 items, pp21, pp22, pp23. This is second variable with 3 items. Okay, likewise there are other variables with various items. This is CRM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So CRM has 6 items, right? So we have different items. CL has CL1, CL2, CL3, CL15. Okay. So we have 5 items here in CL. So these are various items of different variables. So we need to check the reliability, internal consistency reliability, right? So go to analyze, go to scale, go to reliability analysis. Okay, you will find all the items in this particular tab. You have to check the items of a particular variable only. Select items of a particular variable only. So I am selecting pp1 as one variable. So there are 4 items in this particular variable. Transfer it to items tab, right? You can see here alpha is mentioned, right? Just click on OK. So your Crowbank's coefficient alpha is very poor. It's 0.326. You can see the Crowbank's coefficient alpha for 4 items of one variable is 0.326. It means internal consistency is not met. So what is the threshold value? So if coefficient alpha, Crowbank's coefficient alpha is greater than 7, it is acceptable. If it is between greater than 0.7, right? If it is between 0.5 to 0.7, it is average, you can accept. And if it is beyond less than 0.4, it is not acceptable. It means the reliability is not met. Internal consistency reliability is not met. In this case, our internal consistency reliability is not met. It means there is a problem with the questionnaire. The items are not reliable enough to measure the variable PP1. Okay. So let's check other variables also, whether they are in consistency, they are reliable, internal consistency reliability is there or not. Go to scale, go to reliability analysis, take back all the 4 items here. Then we will check the second item. PP2 has 3 items, transfer it and then click on OK. We have 0.771 Crowbank's coefficient alpha. It means it has a acceptable reliability, and we can accept this particular variable and 3 items. So we can confirm that all the 3 items are internally consistent to measure the variable PP2. Okay, so this is how we check the reliability of the instrument. Right? You can see the threshold value here in this slide. If alpha is greater or equals to 0.9, it is excellent. If it is between 0.9 to 0.8, it is good. If it is 0.8 to 0.7, it is acceptable. If it is between 0.7 to 0.6, it is questionable. If it is between 0.6 to 0.5, it is poor. If it is less than 0.5, it is unacceptable. Right? So beyond 0.5, greater than 0.5, you can accept anyhow. But if your alpha is less than 0.5, you cannot accept it because reliability is very poor. Okay. So I hope everybody have understood how to check the internal consistency, Crowbank's coefficient alpha. If you have any doubt, please ask.
Once more, sir.
Once more. Oh God. Okay. Go to analyze, scale, reliability analysis. You will find all your items, right? You have to select all the items one by one. All the items of a particular, all the variables one by one, but all the items in a particular variable you have to select. So here we are selecting a variable PP3. So we have 3 items under PP3 variable. So we will check reliability for this particular variable. We will transfer it to the items tab and then we will click on OK. Okay, the Crowbank's coefficient alpha for PP3 is 0.74. It is again acceptable, good enough. We can accept this, it, and the reliability is met. Okay, I hope everybody has understood.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt? Anyone?
So that means
Hello.
3 elements for a particular variable. So we have to select all those 3 elements in the data.
All the items of a particular variable you have to select.
Right, sir.
Right? Because you are checking the internal consistency between the items.
Achha. Sir, this is a reliability test. Suppose if it is not reliable, if there are 3 elements. So if we exclude one item one by one, so those kind of permutations, combinations, are we supposed to do, sir?
Yes.
For improving the reliability?
Yes, but what is the correct practice? So you have identified that PP1 is not reliable enough, right? So you will check validity first now. If validity suggests you...
Sir, one question my side. If the data is in the form of scale, then we check the reliability. Cronbach alpha. If data is not in the form of scale data, that means nominal, ordinal, then we doesn't check the Cronbach alpha.
That is not the instrument, right? If you are checking the gender, you will measure the gender either male or female. It is not an instrument. It is just the information.
Okay, sir.
So if you're going for interval scale only, then you will check the reliability and validity. Yeah, so I was saying that if any variable is not met with the reliability score alpha is poor, then you have to check for validity. And if validity suggests you to discard any item or the whole variable itself, then you have to follow the validity rules and then again check for reliability. Right? So let's discuss about validity. So what is validity? It is a measurement method which helps to measure the construct that it is supposed to measure. It means what is your objective to measure. This particular instrument, measurement instrument, the construct is measuring what you are supposed to measure. So for example, if you are checking the satisfaction level, you are checking the satisfaction level and not anything else. If you're checking the satisfaction level, self-esteem of the population, you are actually checking the self-esteem and not the motivation level. Okay, so if your objective is to check the self-esteem of a population and you have asked questions regarding their motivation level, so this is not a valid instrument. Your objective will not be met. You will not be able to prove your hypothesis. So it is not a valid question. This is what validity is, right? So for example, if I am measuring people's mood and I find that clinically depressed people score about the same as other people, then I might conclude that my measurement method is not valid. This result would not make any sense, right? So there are few people in the population who are clinically depressed. So I wanted to check their mood. So those who are clinically depressed, their mood will be scoring something else as compared to the normal people, right? So if it is doing so, the instrument is valid. If it is not differentiating between clinically depressed and normal people, it means your instrument is not valid to check the people mood, right? So this is what the validity is. So there are 4 types of validity: criterion, content, construct, and face validity. So criterion validity says that do the results correspond to a different test of the same thing, whether the questions what you are asking are able to answer the same thing or not. This is known as criterion validity. Okay, do the results correspond to a different test of the same thing? So if you have formulated 2 different types of instrument to measure a particular thing, for example self-esteem, if we talk about, so you have 2 different types of instruments. So whether your instrument is measuring the self-esteem or not, and the other instrument also is measuring the self-esteem or not, this is what the criteria to choose. So if the instrument 1 is measuring the self-esteem better than the second instrument, you have to choose the first instrument for your study because it has the higher chances to measure the self-esteem as compared to the second instrument. So this is what the criteria to choose which type of instrument, right? Content validity is the second validity. It says that it is the test that fully representative of what it aims to measure. Content. So what you are supposed to measure, it is measuring the same thing or not. This is what known as what you have written in the content. It is saying exactly what you are supposed to measure or not. This is what content validity is, right? The third one is construct validity. Does the test measure the concept that it intend to measure? Now we are talking about construct. There are minute differences only between criterion, content, and construct, right? So content is about a single question, whether it is measuring the same variable or not. Construct is overall construct, the model, all the variables together. It is about the whole concept. Okay, so that is known as construct validity. And the last one is the face validity. Does the content of the test appear to be suitable to its aim or not? Here we are talking about appearance. So whether your the questionnaire, the instrument is good looking or not, whether it attracts the respondents to response or not, whether it is sufficient enough in lengthwise or it's too big to answer, so that the respondents may get bored and they will not give you the correct responses. Okay, so whether it is good looking or not, whether it attracts it appeals or not, this is what face validity is. So important validity here is the construct validity, right? So we generally measure construct validity because we adapt already published model, already published instrument from the literature. But once we go for construct validity, and factor analysis is the technique to measure the construct validity. Okay. So these are the 4 types of validity, and if you are inventing a new instrument, you have to measure all the 4 types of validity under the pilot testing. Okay.
Sir, in case of criterion validity,
Hmm.
is there any list of criteria, or do we need to focus on our objective itself?
No. There is no criteria as such, but here we talk about there are different tests for the same thing, right? So which test is better? You have to choose this test, right? So on what criteria you are selecting a particular test
Okay.
to measure what you want to measure, right?
Okay.
So while you're inventing a new type of instrument, you have identified say 20 questions to measure a variable, right? So in the one questionnaire, in a one model, you will use 10 questions, and correspondingly you will measure that particular variable through another 10 questions, right? And then you will collect the responses for both the type of questionnaire, 10. And then you will compare which particular set of 10 questions is measuring better, and then you will select that particular instrument, right? So this is what criterion validity is. Any doubt in the types of validity, anyone? Okay, shall I move forward? Any doubt in the chat
Yes,
box?
sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah. So I was talking only about the construct validity. You just focus on construct validity as far as this particular point in time is concerned, right? Because we generally adapt the instruments already available in the literature. So we should only go for construct validity, that is factor analysis, and just we need to refine our items on the basis of its construct. So construct is what is the construction of your instrument, whether the items are measuring what it is supposed to measure or not under each variable. So this is known as construct validity. The factor analysis is the tool to measure the construct validity. It is also known as data reduction technique, which reduces the data. It means which reduces the items which are not required, which does not measure what you intend to measure. Okay. So it reduces the number of variables, or it detects the structure in the relationship between the variables, that is to classify the variables, right? So if you have 10 questions to measure the self-esteem, and you don't know which particular 10 questions, 10 items are basically belong to which variable under self-esteem, right? So factor analysis will help you to classify all the 10 questions under 3 variables. It will help you to measure that this particular 3 questions comes under this variable, this 3 questions comes under the second variable, and this 4 questions comes under the third variable. So it will help you to classify the items under different variables of a particular concept, say self-esteem, right? So it will help you to reduce, as well as it will help you to classify also, right? So it is considered as a data reduction technique or structure detection method also. It will help you to detect the structure of your model. It means there were 10 questions, but we do not know how many variables are there. So it will classify the items on the basis of the likelihood and then it will classify under 3 different variables for the 10 questions, right? So this is known as a structure detection method. And if you have already classified previously, like PP1, PP2, PP3, and PP4, right? So 4 items were under PP1, 3 items were under PP2. So we have predefined our model. So there are say 4 variables: PP1, PP2, PP3, and PP4. Then each variable has 3 or 4 items under it. So we have predefined our model on the basis of 4 variables. So suppose if you do not have those, do not know the names of those variables, and you have 12 to 15 items altogether. Okay. So factor analysis will help you to detect this structure, and then it will identify those 4 variables for you. This is what factor analysis is. Right. So I will help you to do it in the SPSS. So open the SPSS window. Everyone. And you have already uploaded the factor sheet. Factor worksheet has already been uploaded in you, where you check the reliability test on that sheet. That is Crowbank coefficient alpha, right? So we will directly work on this particular sheet in this particular data, and we'll check the factor analysis. So go to analyze in this sheet, go to dimension reduction, and then go to factor. Okay, this window will open. You can see factor analysis window, right? Here you have to select all the items. Here you have to select all the items, whatever is being mentioned here. Select all the items, transfer to the variable box. Okay, you have to check various options here. Actually, please pay attention carefully. So first open the descriptive tab. Here you have to check KMO and Barley test. Here you have to check KMO and Barley test. So click on continue. Go to the extraction tab. So factor analysis basically works on 2 things. One is extraction, another one is rotation. You can see here extraction, and one is rotation. It extracts the desirable items and discards the undesirable items, right? And rotation means it rotates. It's a concept behind the technique of factor analysis. So there are 6 methods of rotation, and on the basis of that rotation, basically it works on the data, and then gives you the accurate items which are valid enough, right? So in the extraction tab, you will find the 7 methods. The most common method, what we generally use, is principal component analysis, right? Every extraction method has its own advantages and disadvantages. After analyzing all the factors and its advantages and disadvantages, I came to know that the most efficient extraction method is maximum likelihood, right? So click on maximum likelihood method. Okay, click on continue. Then click the rotation tab. There are again 6 rotation methods. One is there is no rotation. Another one is Varimax, which is the most common method for rotation methods. General researchers go for Varimax rotation. But after analyzing and comparing all the methods, I came to know that Promax is the best method. So click on Promax. Okay. Click continue. Go to scores. You do not have to do anything here. Go to options. Here, click on suppress small coefficients. Okay. So you have to check on suppress small coefficients. This tab will be highlighted, absolute value below 0.1. Do it below 0.3. Okay. So what factor analysis will do, it will suppress, it will not show any value that is below 3.3. We do not require below 0.3, right? So there is a criteria, as in reliability testing. We have seen that in Crowbank's coefficient alpha, the criteria is it should be greater than 0.7. It is good value of reliability, right? In the factor analysis also, the loadings value, we call it as a loading value. So loading value should be greater than 0.7 actually, but sometimes we also accept values greater than 0.5 also. Okay, but we should always accept greater than 0.7. Okay, so here we will try to suppress all the values below 0.3 actually. So we'll click on continue. Right now we are good to go. We have checked all the required options in all the 5 tabs, and then we will click on OK. So our analysis is not working here. We have not got the results, right? So there was a problem with the data and the rotation and extraction method, right? So another option is we need to change the extraction and rotation method now. Okay, so again go to dimension reduction, go to factor. Now we will work with principal component analysis. Go to principal component analysis, continue, and in rotation we will check Varimax, right? We will click on continue, and then we will click on OK. Okay, now we have got the results. These are the various tables what we have received. Okay, so now the important thing is to interpret the results, right? So always try to go for maximum likelihood extraction method and Promax rotation. If you're not able to get the results, it means this extraction rotation method is not working on your data set. You have to change the extraction and rotation method, right? So check for other extraction and rotation method. The next option is for principal component extraction method and Varimax rotation method. Okay. So here you will get the commonalities. This commonalities should be not less than 0.2. If any item is less than extraction value of 0.2, you have to note down it, and then you may have to discard it. Remember it. Okay. We do not have any extraction value of less than 0.2 here. Okay. So this is true. The next table is total variance explained.
Sir, what is the significance of 0.2, sir?
This is basically the extraction. It means PP11 is basically explaining 0.856. That is, PP12 is basically extracted to an extent of 0.802. PP13 is extracted on the basis of 0.842, right? So here the range is again 0.7 and above and 0.5 and above, right? But the values, these are known as H square values, right? Extraction values, what we call it as an H square value. This H square value should never be less than 0.2. If you have values less than 0.2, you have to discard it. This is the rule, thumb rule of factor analysis.
Sir, the significance of extraction value, for example, 0.856 for PP11, it means that 85% data is usable.
Sorry?
Does it mean that 85% of the data elements are usable for our analysis?
No, not 85%. See, we have considered PP1 as 1. This is one instrument and its value is 1. But after analysis, what the results we have got, that it is explaining 0.85, that is 85% of PP1. the data what we have collected, it is explaining 85%, which is good enough.
Okay. So that means
Right?
only 85%
Individually, we are checking the items.
Okay. And in
Right.
case of CRM1, in the middle, it is 0.472. That means it is that data which we have collected for this element, it is not good enough.
No, yeah, it's not very good enough, but it is in the under the acceptable range, and the threshold value is 0.2. Anything below 0.2 has to be discarded.
So
That is not good.
comparatively, it is not a good data collection in this case.
Yeah, yeah.
We can say that.
Yes, we can say, but it does not have too much effect on the factor analysis. If it is beyond 0.2, you have to discard it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. In the next table, in the total variance explained.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Is there any significance that in case of principal component, we have to always select the Varimax? Can we go principal component with Promax?
Yes, we can go. We can go. Okay, we can. I will show in the next step again. We'll change the extraction and rotation method, and then we will see it's working or not. Okay. Yeah. So in the next table, you have got total variance explained. Right. In this total variance explained, you have to check the extraction sums of squared loadings. You have to check this particular column. Here you have to check the cumulative. So you have received 5 factors here. You can see values in 5 factors only, right? So in the cumulative, you have got 68%, 68.756. It's around 68.7%, right? It should be not less than 60%. The cumulative variance that is explained should not be less than 60%. If it is less than 60%, your model is not good actually. It means the construct, the variables and the items is not good enough if it is less than 60%. It means the construct, the measurement construct what you have prepared to measure the objective is not good enough to measure. Your model is not a fit model. Okay, it means all the variables is not explaining to the objective, right? So it should be always greater than 60%. If it is greater than 60%, here all the variables altogether, the variables is explaining to an extent of 68.7%, which is greater than 60%, and there may be other variables which may comprise of 32%, suppose, right? So 32% is very less, and we can again compromise on that particular. If it is 100%, it's an excellent thing. Okay, but it should not go beyond 60%. The variance explained should not go beyond 60%, right? You should have to ensure this. If it is less than 60%, it is a problematic issue. You have there will be a validity issue then, right? In the next table, the component matrix, you need not to do anything. You have to check for rotated component matrix. See, every extraction and rotation method comes with different types of tables. While we have checked for Varimax rotation, right, and principal component extraction method, we will get rotated component matrix. Okay, so we have to check for rotated component matrix here while in this particular combination. So in rotated component matrix, this particular values are important. Okay, this particular values should be greater than 0.7. I said you already. Anything less than 0.7 has a problem, and anything less than 0.5 has to be discarded. You can consider points greater values, loading values greater than 0.5, but any values less than 0.5 has to be discarded. It means that particular item has to be discarded. That is not good enough as far as validity is concerned, right? So we have suppressed beyond 0.3. Okay, if you remember in the last tab, in the last option, we have suppressed beyond 0.3. So here we are getting 0.326. So we have got two values here. If we would not have suppressed beyond 0.3, we would have got values in all the factors for each items, right? But those small values are not required. We are concerned with only the higher level values, and the higher level values in which factor it is coming, we will consider that factor only. So PP11 is having factor loading value of 0.9, which is good enough, comes under factor 3. PP12 is 0.823, it is again coming under 3. And PP13 is, it is again coming under 0.88 loading value under 3. It means these three instrument items are explaining the same variable, because it as they all the three items are coming under similar factor with good loading values, right? You can see another loading value of PP12, but these two values must have a difference of around 0.4 or 0.3 is enough, right? So there's a difference of around 0.5. So you can consider this value, and if there is a less difference beyond 0.3 is less, the difference is less than 0.3, then this is a problematic item and you have to discard it, right? So maximum concentration, that is 0.823, is under this factor in this item, in case of this item also, in the case of this item also, right? So these three items are explaining the same variable, and these three items are valid enough to measure this particular variable of PP1, right? In case of PP14, this is also the item of this particular PP1 variable. This is deviating, right? So we have to note down and we have to discard this PP14. Remember, any variable should not have less than 2 items. 3 is desirable enough. You should not go beyond the 3. If you are required to discard these 2 items, suppose, you can consider these 2 items only for PP1 variable, it's okay. But even if you have to discard these 3 items, then 1 item will not be sufficient enough to explain the variable. Then you have to discard the whole variable, okay? In the case of PP2, PP21, there is a difference of around 0.3. This is coming under 4. PP22, good, coming under 4. PP3 coming under 4, right? So this particular 3 items of variable PP2 is good enough in variable 4. Check for PP3, 31, 32, 33, good loading value in factor 5, okay? Check for CRM. CRM1 is good enough under component 2. CRM2 okay, CRM2 not okay, difference is less, okay? CRM3 is okay, 4 is okay, 5 is okay, 6 is also not okay, less, and difference is less in the component 2, it's okay, right? CL1, 2, 6, all the components are good enough. You can accept, because all the items are coming under factor 1, okay? So it means 2 criteria you have to check, whether all the items in the variable are coming under same factor or not, same component or not, and all the loadings are greater than 0.7 or not. You have to check this. If they are meeting these 2 assumptions, they are valid enough, right? So here in this particular case, what all we have to discard? We have to discard PP14, right? And CRM2 and CRM6. Let's discard it and see what happens, right?
So what about
Let's
PP3?
discard it. Yeah.
Sir, PP3, the difference is also less than 0.4, no, sir?
Which one?
PP23.
PP23.
Yes, sir.
No, difference is greater, no?
Sir, difference, it should be more than 0.4, no, sir?
See, no, more than point, if it is less than 0.3, you have to discard, otherwise you can accept, right?
Okay.
See what happens, we have identified in the first look, we have identified 3 items which are creating issues. Which one? PP14, right?
All right, sir.
CRM2 and CRM6. Okay. See, the thumb rule for factor analysis is we need to discard minimum items as much as we can. We have not created any model, any construct to discard the items. The more the number of items are discarding, it will raise a question on our literature review. It will raise a question on the researcher that the literature review has not been done thoroughly and the instrument has not been prepared properly, right? So it's not desirable always to discard the items. You need to try to discard minimum number of items always, first of all. And even discarding a few items, the loading values of other items will change because it works on rotation basis and consider the values of all the items, right? So we will try to discard one by one item,
And sir,
and then we will see whether the instrument is getting correct or not.
sir, one question. As you have said that 0.5 is the threshold value, one should be greater than or equal to 0.5. Then can we take that suppress small coefficient value to be 0.5 in compared to 0.3?
No, I will not recommend that, because if you are getting values greater than 0.3 that they had, then it has to be considered, right? Because if you have selected to suppress value beyond 0.5, then you would not have got this CRM2
Some of them,
0.440,
exactly.
right? So what you will not be able to compare this. You will not be able to compare its 2 values under factor 1 and factor 2 then, right? Okay. Yeah. So we will try to discard one by one, and we will check whether our instrument is getting better or not. We will not discard everything at a single go. Okay.
Sir, in this case, CRM2 and CRM6, what is the issue? Why we are
CRM2, they are coming under 2 factors, 2 components, and the difference is less than 0.3.
Okay.
So we are in CRM6 case also.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So CRM2 and 6 are confusing whether to go under factor 1 or factor 2.
Achha. Sir,
Right.
these components 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the meaning of these components, sir? What is the meaning of this component?
The components depends on the number of variables. How many variables are there? How many variables are there in our model? PP1, PP2, PP3, CRM1, CRM, and CL. We have 5 components. We have 5 variables. So correspondingly, we have generated 5 components. Understood?
But sir, what is the significance of the values in different components? For example, for component PP11, it is showing column 3, component 3, as well as some values in column 3. Why not in column 5, sir?
See, that
That value
on
less than 0.3. 0.3 or less than that.
actually PP11 will wait, I will show you. See, go to analyze, dimension reduction, factor, go to options and uncheck this, right? Continue. Okay. Go to rotated component matrix, see. Every component for each item have values. Right? Every component, every factor has some or the other value for each item. But we are not concerned with 0.01 in factor 1. We are not concerned with 0.14. Right?
Okay.
We are concerned with 0.901. So why should we check for this? That's why we are suppressing it.
Understood.
It
So
means this
we are getting the
PP11 has some values for under factor 1 also, factor 2, factor 3, factor 4, and factor 5. But maximum it is been explained by under factor 3 only. So, and all the items of this particular variable PP1, all the 4 items of this PP1 variable, is understood same as a single variable. That's why they are coming under same factor 3, right? But there was an issue with PP14. All the values are very less, right? So but this value is again negative. See, it is greater than 0.5, but it's negative, and it is some in some other factor in fourth number. So this particular PP14 is not representing this variable PP1, as maximum all the three variables are under factor 3. It means this particular item has to be discarded. This is not explaining PP1 variable. Okay.
Good, sir.
Right.
But sir,
Yeah.
sir, when you taken all the values, PP11 has one of the negative values in probably column 5. And now the same logic in the which we have discarded PP14 being negative minus 0.6 as being negative, then at the same logic we can discard PP11.
No, we are considering the maximum value, no, 0.901. We are not concerned with this.
Even if it is showing negative, we are not concerned about that.
Yeah, we are not concerned. We are only concerned with 0.901. Yeah? It's maximum explained in the factor 3.
Okay.
And in PP14 case, the maximum explained is in factor 4, but again it is negative.
That's why. That's okay.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
So we will go again to analyze dimension reduction factor. Again, we will suppress first of all 0.3, right? And then we will remove this item PP14, then CRM1, and then CRM6. Right? We will discard this. We will not consider it, and then we will check again. All the items, all the options will be checked as it is, and we will click on OK. Right? See now, again the things have been changed, and it has come to 4 components now, 4 factors now. Now it's saying that variable 1, PP1 and PP2 are same. So they have come under component 2. Right? Again, PP2 and PP3 are creating issues. See, difference less than 0.3. It means PP2 and PP3 are creating problem. Our instrument will be not valid. So we have to discard this PP2 and PP3. So only PP21 will be left, which is will not explain the variable PP2. So we have to discard this whole variable. Previously there was not problem with PP2, but now there's a problem with PP2 now. Okay, PP3 is good enough. Again, CRM2 is not good enough. So let's discard PP2 variable and CRM2 now. PP2 whole we will discard, and CRM2. Okay. 4 component C. Now it is very good. PP1, 2, 3 in the second component, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3 in the 4 component, CRM 3, 4, 5 in the third component, and CL2, CL6 it is in the first component. This is the correct valid test, and your instrument is now valid enough with 4 variables, PP1, PP3, CRM with 3 items, and CL with all items. Right? So this is your correct instrument, a valid instrument.
Sir, as you mentioned that there should not be reduction in more number of variables, but in this case PP2 we have removed altogether.
Yes,
so
yes.
It is also going to question the capability of the researcher.
Yes, it means the problem is with the literature review, right? With the problem is with building the model, building the instrument. So we have not created the instrument cautiously. Our instrument is not good enough. So we have to check again. We have to extract the instrument again from the literature. We have to work on it, and then we need to collect the data. Okay. So there is a problem with the instrument. Either it is not able to the respondents are not correct. Maybe they are not able to understand your questions. The wordings, the explanation of your question is very tough. It's difficult to understand. This might be the problem. So so it is recommended that you go for pilot testing first of all. Just distribute 20 questionnaire and collect the data and check the validity. Distribute 2-3 questions to the experts and ask them to check the questions. Go for face validity first of all, right? And then finalize the instrument questionnaire and then collect the data. So to what extent you are following the validity and reliability rules, it will more refine your data and the instrument so that your results of multivariate analysis will be good enough, right? It means you have not adopted a good instrument from the literature, or your wordings are was very difficult. Okay.
Good, sir.
So respondents were not able to understand your questionnaire. So that's why they have not given the accurate responses. Right?
Right, sir. Sir, if possible, can you please explain the process of selection of this data once more, sir?
What you want to understand?
In this EPSS, dimension reduction factor, then
go to analyze, dimension reduction, factor.
Yes, sir.
Transfer all the variables, items here.
Right, sir.
Right. Check the extraction. Let's check for principal axis factoring. The second most acceptable or preferred extraction method is principal axis factoring for me actually, right? So principal axis factoring I have checked. Go to rotation, click on Promax. Let's see, and options suppress 0.3. Yeah, go. Okay.
But in case of descriptors, did you select anything, sir?
Sorry?
In case of extractions, in case of descriptors,
descriptive we will check for KMO and Barley test.
Okay, sir.
Okay. I will show you another factor analysis. Let's see. Go to file, Excel. Let's go to regression now. Regression. Okay. I will get some other data. Excel. Is everybody following me? Shivangi, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Please ask all the participants if they have understood or not.
Yes, sir. They have sent messages in the box. They are following you.
Okay. So if participants have any doubt, please you can ask me anytime. Please ask. Vector analysis is a bit complex. Yeah.
Sir, why there are some values factor loadings and some negative factor loadings?
It depends on how the software is rotating and comparing with the other data. So that is not a point of concern. Okay. So don't bother about that. You just bother about two assumptions. Loading should be greater than 0.7 and it should be under same factor. Okay.
Sir, if a variable is coming under two factors, at one place suppose it is 0.4 and at another place it is showing factor loading 0.6. So just on the basis of the higher value, can't we consider it? As you said that it should be, the difference should be 0.3 at least.
Sorry, come again.
Sir, as you said that if a variable is showing factor loading under two factors, suppose at one place it is 0.4 and at another place it is 0.6. So just on the basis of higher factor loading, can't we consider it?
No, difference should be more than 0.3 actually. Then only you will be able to consider the higher value, higher loading value. Okay, if difference is less than 0.3, it means the factor loadings are bifurcating under two factors. So you cannot consider one item under two factors. You have to consider under a single factor only.
As you have deleted this variable, but it is one of the means it is significant variable, no? It is good variable because
Who said? Who said it's a good variable? It was not a good variable.
Sir, like P14 was showing 0.6 value, 6.49. So
but it was under different factor, na? So it was under different. I said two assumptions under same factor and above 0.7. Okay. So any one of the assumption is not met, you have to discard it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I have uploaded another data sheet. See. So x111213, this is one variable. x313233, another variable. x414243. Then C1, C2, C3, I1, I2, E1, E2. So there are many variables with multiple items. Okay, I will go to analyze, descriptive, factor. These are all variables. Okay, these are mean values. I will not select this. I will only select till items. Okay, and then I will transfer it to the variables. Go to descriptive. KMO and Barley test, extraction. Let's check maximum likelihood, continue, rotation, Promax, continue, options, suppress beyond 0.3, continue. Click on OK. See, KMNO Barley test, commonalities, total variance, explained 64.3%, vector matrix. See, you will also get goodness of fit test for when you have checked maximum likelihood and Promax rotation. The chi-square value is greater than 0.05, so it is good enough. It should be greater than 0.05, right? So your model is fit with the data. This is the pattern matrix. See, once you have checked the maximum likelihood extraction method and Promax rotation method, the table to be considered is pattern matrix, right? Sagdeji, you would remember while you have attended the workshop of MOs, I explained you about pattern matrix, how we can upload the pattern matrix directly to MO software and the model is been built.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yaad hai na?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So that's why pattern matrix is better and it shows good results because maximum likelihood rotation, extraction and Promax rotation is better than any other method, right? And this is how we get the results. You see x1, 1, 2 and 13 and the third factor, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3 and the sixth factor, 4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3 and the fifth factor, C1, C2, C3 and the fourth factor, I1, I2 on the seventh, E1, E2, E3, E4 on the second factor, and P1 to P5 on the first factor. So there were 7 variables and 7 factors we have received here, right? And all the items of a single variable under same factor, and the values are greater than 0.7, right? So this is how we get the pattern matrix, and this is what the factor analysis is. Okay. And see, this is the KMO and Barley test. KMO test value should be greater than 0.7, and the significance value in the Barley test should be less than 0.05. If you have achieved this, it means your model, your data is good enough to go for further analysis. This is KMO and Barley test. right? So this is how the factor analysis is basically done. Any doubt till now? So today again we are behind. Today we also had planned to discuss parametric test, t-test, ANOVA, correlation and regression, but unfortunately the time is over. It's beyond 5, so we cannot discuss it now. Tomorrow we will discuss parametric test. Okay. Any doubt till now in reliability and validity testing? Reliability and validity testing is an important analysis to understand, I suppose. So Shivangi, let's stop for today.
Yes, sir.
And any doubt if you have, please ask. And those who want to leave can leave. We will continue tomorrow sharp at 3. And if you have any doubt, please ask.